oh, if the Southern Poverty Law Center is training the prosecutors, and I know the FBI is going to pay confidential human sources, and the Southern Poverty Law Center, well, sugar, I can get money from both of them. $3 million from the SPLC, and who knows what the federal government's going to pay out. They got a pretty big bank account too. I think that's a fair question that we'd like to get the answer to.
Hey everyone, welcome back to America Wake. I'm Wilson. That was a pretty revealing exchange from Representative Jim Jordan, and I think it raised some important questions that deserve answers. What stood out to me was Jordan's focus on accountability. He wasn't just talking about politics. He was asking why attacks on churches and pro-life pregnancy centers following the Dobbs decision seemed to get far less attention than other politically motivated incidents. Whether you agree with Jordan or not, asking tough questions about government transparency and equal enforcement of the law is exactly what Congress is supposed to do. In this video, we're going to break down the biggest moments from the hearing, what Jordan was really arguing, and why this debate matters. Before we jump in, make sure you like the video, subscribe to America Wake, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest content. Let's get into it.
From Washington, I'll now recognize the Chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ferrara, how many churches and crisis pregnancy centers were attacked in the aftermath of the Dobbs leak and the Dobbs decision? Do you remember?
Mr. Ferrara, can you please use your microphone?
I don't have the exact number, but it was many, and I'm involved in one particular case, the firebombing of a pro-life pregnancy center in Amherst, New York, causing $500,000 in damage and injuring 2 of the firemen.
Well, I will tell you, I think there were hundreds. I'll just give you a little sampling. You talked about the firebombing of that place. There was another place firebombed in Madison, Wisconsin on May 8, 2022. Next day, May 9th, 3 Catholic churches in Texas were attacked. 2 days later, in Michigan, activists vandalized the Family Life Services Pregnancy Center. And I have actually, I think it's like 10 pages. We did a list of this back during the leak and the Dobbs opinion. I have 10 pages just listing churches, crisis pregnancy centers that were attacked. And do you remember some of the groups that were attacking these churches and crisis pregnancy centers, Mr. Ferrara?
Jane was here.
Yeah, Jane's Revenge, Ruth sent us. Do you happen to know if any of those organizations made the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list?
Of course not.
No, they didn't, did they?
No, the Southern Poverty Law Center is not a credible organization. In fact, if you, as a conservative activist, are condemned by the Southern Poverty Law Center, consider that a resume builder.
They condemned Moms for Liberty. They condemned the Family Research Council. They condemned Alliance Defending Freedom. They may have even went after your group. I don't know. I mean, any pro-life group, it seemed like they were going to attack. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. I'd like to make a point about what Congresswoman Jay Powell said regarding a public safety law. There is no federal police power over the states. So the idea that you would like to have a public safety law that caters to your particular interest in receiving reproductive health services is contrary to the whole principle of federalism. And that's the problem with FACE, that FACE purports to exercise a generalized federal police power in one area and one area only, and that being the activity of pro-life activists.
Yeah, Mr. Severino, let me come to you. We know that the Biden Justice Department, the Biden FBI, was actually paying confidential human sources to do all kinds of things. I mean, we're trying to get some answer to that. I'm just curious, do you think maybe some of the same folks, so the Biden Justice Department was working with the Southern Poverty Law Center to train prosecutors as if they were going to get some great wisdom from the SPLC. They were doing that. We know they were paying confidential human sources. Do you think it's a fair question to say, I wonder if any of these, quote, informants of the SPLC were also being paid by the federal government? Think that's a fair question?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, why wouldn't they double dip? It's like if the Southern Poverty Law Center is training the prosecutors, and I know the FBI is going to pay confidential human sources, and the Southern Poverty Law Center, well, sugar, I can get money from both of them. $3 million from the SPLC, and who knows what the federal government's going to pay out. They got a pretty big bank account too. I think that's a fair question that we'd like to get the answer to.
We should get to the bottom of it. And what the DOJ report on the FACE Act showed was that, in fact, DOJ was in cahoots with outside groups.
Exactly.
Similar to SPLC. The left-wing groups, they get together and they pretty much create their own little branch offices within the DOJ whenever you have liberals in power. So SPLC has been talking to DOJ under Biden and certain Obama, Planned Parenthood Federation, National Abortion Federation, all of those folks, they pretty much open up their branch offices in DOJ when the left is in power.
Yes, you anticipated my next question, because that's exactly where I wanted to go. Do you think any of these informants actually were involved in the attacks on the churches and crisis pregnancy centers? I think that's a fair question as well.
It's a possibility. That would be terrible if, in fact, our own government was funding.
Well, I think maybe what the SPLC calls informants, we might call instigators, based on what you saw in the indictment last week.
Sure.
So I don't know that it's out of the realm of possibility. If they're, I mean, we don't know, but I think it's a fair guess to say they might have been double dipping, getting paid by the government and the SPLC. Maybe they were instigating some of these over 10 pages, 100 different attacks on crisis pregnancy centers and churches in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision.
Well, we know that a DOJ official actually endorsed a grant application for one of these abortion activist groups, which is a clear ethical violation that the DOJ report said is very likely being investigated for an ethics breach. So this sort of too cozy relationship is something that is very common that we see in abortion and SPLC. Any of these hot button issues from the left, you see this sort of collusion.
Yeah. I think, again, I want to thank our witnesses. Ms. Edel, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. I listened to your testimony, but I was in a meeting backstage, but when you came on, I turned on the TV to hear what you had to say, so God bless you. We appreciate your Christian witness and your words. And with that, I yield back to the chairman.
After watching that hearing, I think Jim Jordan was asking a question that many Americans have been wondering about for a long time. If churches and pro-life pregnancy centers were attacked, vandalized, or even firebombed after the Dobbs decision, why wasn't there more public attention focused on those incidents? One thing Jordan did well was bring up specific examples. Instead of speaking in general terms, he pointed to actual cases and challenged witnesses to explain why these attacks seem to receive less scrutiny than other politically charged acts of violence. Another major point involved the Southern Poverty Law Center. Jordan questioned why conservative and pro-life groups have often been labeled or criticized while organizations linked to attacks on churches and pregnancy centers were not treated the same way. Agree or disagree with that argument, it is a fair question to ask. I also found the discussion about the relationship between activist organizations and government agencies interesting. Jordan repeatedly pushed for transparency and wanted answers about whether outside groups had too much influence inside federal institutions. Now, it's important to note that allegations are not proof. A hearing is not a conviction. But hearings are supposed to uncover facts and identify areas that deserve further investigation. That's what Jordan appeared to be doing here. The biggest takeaway for me is consistency. If violence and intimidation are wrong, they are wrong no matter who the target is. If one group receives protection under the law, every group should receive the same protection. If one side is investigated, the other side should be subject to the same standards. That seems to be the core message Jordan was making throughout this exchange. At the end of the day, more transparency is usually a good thing. The public deserves clear answers, and elected officials should never be afraid to ask tough questions in pursuit of them. But that's my opinion. What do you think? Did Jim Jordan raise legitimate concerns, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This is Wilson with America Wake. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.